Swim check 1, 2. Bike check 1, 2. Run check 1, 2. I think we're ready. Let's try this. Welcome to the Try Beginner's Luck podcast, a podcast where we explore the sport of triathlon from a variety of perspectives to help beginner triathletes on their journey. I am your host, Mashonda Shines. All right, welcome back to another edition of Try Beginner's Luck. We are just rolling this year. I think I've gotten a system in place. And you know, when you get a system in place, it's just like plug and play, go, go, go. And I've had to create this system because of life that's building around me and not wanting to fall or neglect responsibilities. And it gets really hard sometimes to not want to neglect the things that matter the most. For instance, I record my podcast early, but lately I have been posting at the very last minute to the point where some have not almost come out. But I am committed. And I'm saying this today because today we had an episode release. And I was just like, my goodness, I am tired. It is 4 something in the morning and I still have to go swim and then bike. Life does life, but I believe it is so important to bring people to this audience who also exemplify real life, real responsibilities, and they still try. Now, this guest, if you've been on social media and you follow Try people, I'm sure you've come across this IG weekly live called Coffee Posse Live. A conversation centered around coffee, multi-sport activities, and just getting to know people. Brilliant. I kind of wish I came up with it myself, but I didn't. But another cool guy did, all the way from New York City, who loves coffee, obviously, but he's also a triathlete. And so I get the pleasure and the honor of welcoming to the Try Beginner's Luck podcast, Mr. Jamal Davis. Jamal, how are you? Welcome to the Try Beginner's Luck podcast.
Hi, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. This is a blast. So thank you so much, and for those very kind words. It means a lot.
But it's real. Like, I'm a community person, so I love community, and I feel like you built this really cool, authentic community centered around the love of coffee.
Yeah, it's definitely love drinking coffee. I didn't always like drinking coffee, but I think, as I got a little bit older, more responsibilities came along, hours needed to be stretched, coffee got worked into the mix, and became kind of a staple in the morning. And Coffee Posse Live kind of came out of that community around people like going to a coffee shop, right? And
Mm-hmm.
hanging out with people in the community, whether you're having coffee, tea. We've had people who don't drink either and just water in the mornings on Coffee Posse. But like yourself, wanting to engage with the community and provide a place for people to gather.
Incredible. Incredible. Now, I love that you said that you didn't always drink coffee because I too didn't always drink coffee. When was your first time that you had coffee and what made you say you wanted more? Because it took me a couple of tries before I really fell in love with coffee. So I just want to know, how did you come to fall in love with coffee?
Yeah. So the first time that I had coffee was in college, studying and needed to stay up for a very long period of time. But I had way too much. Wasn't able to sleep for a long time. I didn't, because I didn't understand how much coffee is the right amount of coffee, and it was way more than 3 cups that I had that night and was wired. So I didn't have coffee for a very long time after that. Decided that wasn't the proper way, and I had to figure out how to actually drink coffee. So I would say maybe 2000. Oh, it's actually a little difficult. Maybe a couple years after I graduated from college, and started to drink coffee. But really, it was only on those days that I was really tired having it. I would say once I um, had our son, you can see a crib here in the background, but became a very habitual coffee drinker in the years kind of leading up to parenthood, probably right before the pandemic really became a mainstay as a routine.
Good old
How
pandemic.
about yourself?
Well, thank you for asking me a question. So
Oh,
for
sorry.
me, no,
I
you're
guess.
fine. You're fine. Um, I think for me, coffee and I have had a love-hate relationship for a little bit. I think I tried it when I was younger and was like, this is disgusting. And then
Hmm.
when I was in college, I tried it again. And I'm like, how do people drink this? So for me in college, it was more of a Red Bull and Monster energy
Mm,
drink type of person. And then I
sure.
moved to DC, and my friend at the time was a big coffee drinker who I was staying with. And I was like, okay, let me try it one more time. And I tried it and I was like, hmm, this isn't bad with a little creamer, with a little sugar. But then I was like, I don't need those extra calories. So then I was like, if I can't drink coffee black, then I don't want it. And
Mm,
so I started drinking coffee black. And I think I had a really good roast that was very good. And I was like, I can get into this. And so when I drink coffee now, I drink it black. Um,
nice.
and occasionally, like if I go out, I might do like the lattes and stuff, but I don't really, I don't enjoy those as much as I do just a good simple cup of black coffee. And if I can't drink the
There
coffee
you go.
black, it's not a good cup. And that's how you can taste the true essence
I'm
of
with you on
the
that.
beans. You know what I mean? So I'm a purist
Hmm.
when it comes to
Absolutely.
coffee, like a purist. Now, what region of the world do you prefer your coffee? Are we down to that level?
Oh no, I am not down to that level. I
Okay.
will admit. I we have a few places where we enjoy buying our coffee from, but I don't go into. I'm not a connoisseur.
Okay.
Let me just put it that way. I
Okay.
enjoy it. I like brewing it at home, but it's a drip. I'm not doing, pour over. I'm not doing the espressos yet. I'm a habitual but casual in terms of uh, my my depth in coffee right now.
Oh, I love it. I'm a pour over these days. I like the
Okay.
routine of just seeing it like seep down. It helps me to like get my
Mhm.
mind and my thoughts together. So
Mhm.
yeah, okay. Well, here we are. For all the coffee lovers out there, this is your guy, Jamal. You should talk flavors, get him to transition over to pour over occasionally on the weekends, instead of the drip, and watch his life explode with like, oh, this is a different, okay, okay. So coffee, you became a
Excellent.
lover of coffee, and that helped you to create community. Um,
Mm.
but when did you start trying? Like, how did it happen? Were you an athlete
Mm.
in high school? Like, I want to know all the details.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So I was an athlete growing up. I played basketball, baseball, soccer, all the way up until high school. I did those 3 sports. I did cross country for 1 season and got shin splints, so I didn't do cross country after that. As it, you know, kind of spilled over into affecting basketball and everything. So I was mainly a basketball player as my main sport all the way up until high school, and then doing baseball and soccer around that. And then in college, I played only basketball, played Division 3 basketball in college. Absolutely love basketball. Always have a a special place in my heart. Love watching it now. It's March Madness, and it is whenever you're at our house, there, if the game's on, it's on, and we're watching. For especially for the men's and women's tournament right now, it's been simply amazing. So basketball and athletics has always been a special place in my heart. And after graduating, it was harder to find, that type of camaraderie and teammates, right? To kind of cultivate that same type of atmosphere in college. It's very hard to recreate that. So, I did a little bit of traveling for work. And when I was in Texas, I really got into triathlon. I did a relay at one point where I did the bike portion as a part of a work activity for a triathlon. Someone did the swim, I did the bike, and one of our teammates finished it off with a run. So that kind of got the juices flowing and everything. And when I went to Texas, I was by myself, right? Didn't know people there outside of colleagues. So I had a lot of time on my hands and started training for a local triathlon down down in Texas. So that's really where I would say competed, and it was miserable because it was cold out of nowhere. It was a pool start, which was a nice way to ease into it. So I like that. But then, having gloves on and, changing and then doing that, it was tough. I, had to rent a bike. So it was a process to say the least. But that was, when I first did that, and that was back in, I think, 2012, 2013. And then I didn't do a triathlon for several years after that. Came back to the Northeast and didn't do a triathlon back until 2019. So big gap between the two, but I loved the training of it in
Mhm.
2013, and I loved the kind of competitiveness, but it's with yourself. So, sure, there's age group things and things, but you can compete against yourself. And if you want to go higher, you can, because that's there. But if you want to figure out how to best, your own times, then that's there. So I really like that aspect of it too.
I can't say this enough. This is why triathlon is one of the best sports, is because it's really inexhaustible in ways that you can improve. There's always something that you can improve for yourself. And it's just
Mm,
a really good way to just stay fresh. I think that's the word I want to use for like how you can just stay fresh in the sport and not allow it to like just weigh you down. So 2012 or 2013, you did your first big gap, and then 2019.
mhm.
So in 2019, with you being such a community person, did you join a team when you came back to the Northeast, or did you train on your own and then say, hey, I'm going to uh, do it this way?
Mhm. I did not join a team. I solo trained
Hmm.
for those getting back into it. It was all solo, and then we all know what happens in 2020.
Hmm.
So a lot of training was solo in 2019 and 2020.
Okay.
I didn't join a team until later, after a couple seasons.
Okay. So now we're going to go back to your first try. Tell us about what that training looked like, and take us through the elements of your first triathlon: swim, the bike, and the run.
Sure. Oh boy, I was going back
He's like, I gotta look
11
back, way
years.
back for that. Yeah.
I got to think back to that now, because I so training was, I don't even think I had a training plan. I think I went to the pool and swam. So I always grew up. I grew up knowing how to swim, right?
Hmm.
But there's a difference between lap swimming and knowing how to swim. right? Like tread water, be at a pool, hanging out with your buddies and friends, splashing around, or even at the beach, right? Knowing how to
Mhm.
swim. And I could swim well, but I didn't know how to like form, right? And
Mhm.
lap swimming and doing hundreds and 300s and things like that. So that was something that I had to practice and learn. And my wife knows how to swim, lap swim. So, she helped me early on, and then I just started watching a lot of YouTube videos on swimming and form there. So that was a big hurdle. But since my first introduction to it was in a pool, a lot easier. So the swim really wasn't that bad because you always like take a little break on the wall and then swim another lane to get back. So that was great. The bike, I love biking. So it was miserable for me just because my hands and feet get cold very easily. So the bike was miserable, and I mainly practice on stationary bikes. I mentioned that I rented a bike for this event, so it was all on stationary, and this was a sprint triathlon. Sorry, I didn't say before, but it was a sprint. So it wasn't the best, but at the same time, it wasn't the worst because it was a sprint and you could get through it. I did some lifting for training too, just because right out of college is kind of like things that I knew how to do. So I was strength
Mhm.
training throughout it. And I remember something particularly about running for my first. I only ran fast for every run. So I didn't do like easy runs in the training for my first. I was just like, oh, like if you're running, you're just gonna run fast every time you're
Mhm.
training. So I distinctly remember that as a part of my first training is that I only ran fast, and I didn't learn that lesson until much later on in training where, zone two, really low heart rate training and taking easy runs. So that was my first. I don't remember the time that I came in. I have to probably use Athlinks or something to figure out all the things that happened on that one in terms of
Mhm.
timing. But I just remember I had a good time. I did like the nature of feeling like competing again. And I really like that. So that stuck with me for a very long time. And I like the training. It was something new every day you're training, right? It's never just like, oh, I'm going to go out for a run again. It's, oh, today I'm swimming, today I'm biking, or today I'm running. So I really like that aspect of it from the first time.
Stationary bike only. That's an interesting, and as I'm seeing, you have a stationary bike behind you. So it looks
That's
like
true.
you
It's
so
following
you
me.
it's following you. That keeps you going. It's like, listen, I'm here for the stationary lifestyle. But I want to talk about that stationary training because for someone who
Sure.
might be a beginner who can't say afford a bike initially, how would you tell them to train? Because they can easily go to the gym and get on the
Mm,
stationary spin bike there. So tell us
mhm.
how you trained on the spin bike or the stationary bike that you had in order for it to translate to the road.
Sure. It's a good question. Also, side note, I used this bike right here a lot for my first Ironman training, and then only switched like later in training to the actual bike that I'd be using and getting it set up on a trainer. So it is possible, like no matter what distance you're doing, I'm not saying I recommend it, like don't get me wrong, but it is possible to train in different formats with the resources that you have, whether it's a stationary bike or getting on a bike trainer or riding outside on a road bike
Mhm.
and going from there. So it is possible. So with a stationary bike, it's great because it's super accessible. Most gyms have stationary bikes, or if you have a Peloton at home, you can do a lot of your training on that, especially, sprints and Olympics if you have a road bike. The form is different. So you will feel right, because when you're on a stationary bike, it's generally the handlebars are upright, so they meet you closer
Mhm.
to your body than if you're on a road bike or aero time
Mhm.
trial bike where you're more forward. So you have to get used to the posture, and always recommend like you don't want to do anything new on race day. So if you're gonna, you can't do a triathlon on a stationary bike. So test out the bike that you're going to be using, and if you're used to riding a bicycle, it is the same in that aspect, right? You don't need clip-ins, which if you're unfamiliar with bike shoes, right, you don't need a fancy bike shoe. You can have your sneakers, get on your road bike or mountain bike and pedal, right? So that it's what you're comfortable with. So I think they're great, and that's an accessible way to get into triathlon. You don't need all the fancy bells and whistles
Mhm.
with what comes with when you start getting more into the sport.
It's all about getting in how you fit in the best at that particular time, and so I think that's really good advice to just get in. If you don't have a bike, it's okay. Use what you have at your local gym, your apartment or condo complex gym, and
Hmm.
just do it. Um, so since you mentioned it, I just want to jump in real quick. What was training for your first full Ironman like on the Peloton?
Um, it's only what I what I knew. So
Mhm,
it's kind of like that um naivety
mhm,
of doing something you haven't done before, so you don't know how hard it's going to be, right? You
mhm,
don't know what going through something is until you do it, right? Like everybody can warn you about, oh, you're going to be sleep deprived when you're a new parent, you're going to be tired, it's going to be the most amazing, but you don't know it until you go through it, and you can't prepare for it. It's the same thing with training for an Ironman or training for anything that you haven't done before, but you know that there's going to be a difficult task at hand. So I did get a coach for the first Ironman. Still with her to this day. She's great. And that was that recommendation of my wife. So shout out to my wife for saying, if you're going to do this, get some help. So
thank you,
shout
wife.
out
Thank
to
you.
exactly. So yeah, and she's very supportive of meeting athletes where they are, right? So she's like, if you're not going to get on the trainer and do this now, here's the workouts that we're going to do on the Peloton. It will be different, but if this is what you have and this is what you got. So I stacked classes. If you're not familiar with Peloton, you can like
Mm,
load up classes. I'd be on there for an hour and a half and just dialing away there. I wouldn't do their prescribed zones, right? When they're saying, okay, crank it up to this and do that now. Cause I had my sheet of where I was supposed to be in terms of levels. So I would just follow what my coach gave me in terms of where I should be. But the music was awesome. So, you still get the benefit of hearing what they're talking about and the music that they're playing. So I loved it. But I do not use the Peloton now for this next cycle for the Ironman coming up.
So I've always wanted to ask someone who trained. I don't know many people who use. I might have had one other guest who used the Peloton, but she plugged in her own workouts through some type of device. But to hear that that was one of your primaries and you used their classes, but you just did your own workout, it's a very different thing. And so I've always wondered, like, what would that be like to be in the class with, one of the, celebrity instructors
Yeah.
telling you, go Jamal, you got this. Okay, 500 ride. That's like more cheerleading, but you know what I mean. I think so.
Yeah.
I
I
like
have you
that kind of
got
stuff.
have you done Peloton? Do you?
I've done the app. I don't have a Peloton bike, but I've done the
Okay.
app. So I used to do the app during the pandemic when they offered it
Mm,
at a very affordable rate. And I would do the runs and the walks and some of the hit classes.
mm,
And then
mhm.
last summer, I picked up the app again because I wanted something a little bit more engaging to be with in terms of classes. And so I engaged back with it um, last year, actually. So last year I did Peloton again for a little bit. And then I kind of was like, I'm not being a good steward over this because I wasn't going to the classes and I
Got
couldn't,
it. Mhm.
I wasn't doing right by Peloton. That was my fault. I wasn't doing
You got to
right.
know what's going to serve you, right? So
Absolutely.
um, that is interesting because things ebb and flow. So
Hmm.
right now I'll hop on there if I just have an easy ride, not having to pay attention to a watch or something like that. I still do enjoy it mainly for music and the instructors. It just makes it easier, when you're on there. But got to get comfortable with my bike right now. And there is, when you're talking about the differences of training, right? It's a very different position to be on your road bike or to be in time trial position than on there. And you need to, in my opinion, not necessarily need, but if you want to be the most comfortable on what you're going to be doing race day, if you're in a long distance, or if you're doing a 70.3 or a full, right, that's a lot of time to be in that position, and you want to spend some hours practicing in that position to get ready.
Oh, for sure, because you could have your lower back lock up from being uncomfortable,
Oh
not being
yeah.
able to, or have like, get a little numb with your feet because you haven't, get the hot spots. So there's so many things that could go wrong, and you don't want that to impact your run. Because listen, by the time you get to the run, you want to be in the best position to just at least enjoy it to the best of your ability through all of the, you want to be able to enjoy it, you know, just
Absolutely.
that right there. Okay, so you ran and you said all you could do was run fast. So what did it feel like for you, your first race? You swam, you took your breaks when you needed to, you survived that, you got on the bike, you did that. But then transitioning from the bike to the run, what was that like for you? Because all you did was go fast. And so, did you practice bricks before? So, just tell us about that.
Yeah, I practiced bricks lightly just from seeing it. But I was what 20, early 20s, and your body just it could just go right. So I was used to training, so for me, going from the bike then to the run, it was more of a matter of just warmth, right? The physical aspect of it in terms of conditioning wasn't as hard to go fast. um it was more the warmth, so that part didn't feel too too bad, because talking 3.1 miles, which is a substantial distance after biking 11, 12 miles. But that part for me wasn't as bad. I could still run fast for my abilities, not maybe not as fast as I was just solo on the treadmill, but it was more, I just want to be done and warm than feeling the physical pain of trying to burn my legs, because I kind of like that. I like running fast. That's something that I personally enjoy, and feeling that tiredness. So that was right up my alley.
Feeling the burn. I love it. You mentioned something about when you were in your 20s and how your body changed. So let's talk about that change. So your first triathlon was in your 20s, and then you came back out of retirement into your 30s. So, so what was coming out of mini retirement like back to the life in a different decade, and how did your body respond?
Yeah, it was definitely different. I learned about zone two, right? And just having easy runs, and you don't have to feel sore all the time, right? I think that was one of the biggest differences, is you have to make sure you're foam rolling and stretching. You can't just you know, do a workout and then walk to your car, hop in your car, and think that your body's gonna be great getting out of the car again, and feeling fine, right? Like those are things that you could bounce back easily when you're younger from, or making sure you have to make sure that you eat better now, right? Because if you don't eat better, then it stays with you for longer in terms of how your body feels, versus your body's just an incinerator when you're younger. So now, that really is a big difference, and I think it does make you a better athlete. Um, in terms of paying attention to what your body needs and becoming more in tune with your training, and making sure that you're primed for the next workout.
I love that magic word that you said that people run from all the time, foam roller. Listen, the foam roller is the enemy of most, yet it is one of the best tools to provide quick recovery.
Mm.
I was today years old when I realized 3 weeks ago that the foam roller is like the secret sauce.
Mm.
Recovery is the secret sauce. Rest is the secret sauce. Oh my goodness. I am like, yep, it's a rest day. Resting means either doing band work or foam rolling. And it's amazing how your body just, it bounces back a little bit quicker. Have you felt like
Mm.
that?
And you're just doing, and this is a recent revelation in terms of putting that into practice.
Thank you for making that so plain for the audience, Jamal. But yes, it is a recent
Sorry, it's the
it's a
Copy Posse Live. Let's dive into that. But I want to make sure we're clear.
I'm
But
embarrassed to
I mean,
say.
that's huge, right?
Yeah.
No, but that is huge. And from you saying that, and this is try beginners, right? So you want to, for the early parts and the value to people to say, like, and you mentioned it earlier, learning, right? There's so much to learn in this sport.
There's so
And
much.
now you think about like how much better you're going to be now, right? Like you're already good, right? And now like you've got another level unlocked to practice expanding your training and racing and going from there. So I think that's awesome. And now I'm pumped for you. You get more sleep, body feel better. Like, oh, you're
More
gonna be good.
quality sleep. It's the quality sleep, right? So
Mm,
all this to say, for those of you who are
hmm
listening, you heard Jamal say how he did the foam roller and did recovery, and you heard me just admit that I am just taking the foam roller seriously because the foam roller is not comfortable. It is very,
no.
very uncomfortable and sometimes can be painful. And
hmm
one of our coaches from Ask a Coach, Coach Maria, we were having a conversation and she was like, absolutely, you do foam rolling until it doesn't hurt anymore. And that's when you know you're good. And I'm like, oh, oh, okay. That's a whole different level. I'm not there yet, but I enjoy it now a lot more and just watching TV. And so for those of you who are listening,
Mm.
take recovery seriously. Like recovery, even if you're doing a sprint, no matter what distance you're doing, if especially if you're over 28.5, take recovery.
0.5.
I'm just saying, it starts to creep in at that 0.5. You'd be like, this feels a little different. Oh, so I'm just
Yeah.
saying, take it seriously.
hmm
Your body will appreciate
Yeah.
it, and you'll start to see that you're probably hitting more consistent numbers because your body is more well recovered and adjusted. And again, I think that's probably why I'm the best. You know, in this good book, it says, that God will use the foolish things, right? I'm the foolish
Mm.
things. I'm the foolish person that
Oh.
have been doing this for so long and still learning and uncovering things. And I think that helps me approach the sport from a novice standpoint and to stay
Mm.
curious. I'm a curious person by nature. And so I'm just like, it just unlocks my curiosity.
That's
Yep.
amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And there's always something to learn. I know you're, saying in this aspect, right? But there's so much that right? But then there's that thing that will hump, like the thing that terrifies me is a flat tire, right? I get a flat, I'm like, all right, guess I'm packing it up, right? Like I've watched YouTube videos, I do all these things, but when it comes to actually practicing how to fix a flat, still haven't done that, right? And I have the equipment to do it. I've got everything, but I still haven't practiced fixing the flat, which is, I think, the thing I need to do. See, there you go.
Got all the tools.
Exactly. Yeah, that's perfect. So for me, right? If you pulled up and you're like, you see me on the side of the road flat, and I'm just looking out here fumbling, like that's the foolish thing for me. I'm like, how many hours do I spend on my bike and I haven't practiced this so that when it happens outside, I'm not fumbling and I can do it faster. Lo and
Mhm.
behold, it happens in a race, right? And now I'm burning tens of minutes instead of maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes just fixing it. See, I don't even know like how long it should take. But anyway, like that's one of the things that I need to practice because it's very possible, right? And I've gotten flats before, so yeah.
Yeah, it is very possible. And I'll just say, as a word to the wise, oh my gosh, this is so in line with some conversations that we're having over in Ask a Coach about
Mm,
knowing how to knowing how to be able to change your tire and how you should just practice at home sitting in front of the TV. Take a wheel off
mm,
and practice. Because
mm,
to your point, it is an art to that. And when you come around that
mm.
last little hump where you're trying to seal it in and you take the tire lever out and you can't pop that thing under and you get frustrated because then all the air comes out all again and you don't have any more CO2 cartridges, you're going to be like, I wish I would have wasted those CO2 cartridges right in front, or you could use your tire pump at that time. But, I wish I
Mm,
would have done that while I was just at home in the comfort. It's something that you do have to practice. And that's a lesson to all of us. Just constantly refresh every season, refresh to see how well you can change your tire. So you got the good
mm.
nuggets today. Come on, what else you got?
Nutrition. If we want to get into really like some of the other things, learnings. I I blew up the first Ironman because I didn't have I had my nutrition I thought dialed down, but it's one of those things, right, where some things you just learn when you're in the moment
Hmm.
and racing. And I didn't really take into effect how much of a salty sweater I was, and I didn't take any salt tabs on the bike. Cramped up super poorly. So, one of my things is everybody says nutrition, nutrition, but it's one of those things where in those moments, like I don't know if I would have learned that I was a salty sweater another way or that salty of a sweater. I'm sure if I would have paid attention and looked at my kit, when my coach was telling me after, like, well, did you see a lot of salt on your kit? Like, was there gray stuff and everything like that? I'm like, oh yeah, I see that all the time. Like, well, you're a salty sweater, right? So take salt tabs and things like that. But I think it all comes like we were already talking about practice, and sometimes things just come out when you're in the game that you learn you need to do, and that just happens from reps. So always practice nutrition as well, because um, every little thing has a possibility of derailing you, and you'll learn it quickly when you're in the moment. But um, listen to your body. Yeah.
And nutrition, I want to be clear, like nutrition and fueling are words that we use
Mm.
interchangeably. All right.
Oh, good point.
And so fueling is, and I do it all the time too, but it just hit me. Fueling is what you need when you're fueling for the race. Nutrition is what you do leading up to the race. And so
Mm.
I've even used those interchangeably, but just know when you're talking about race day and you hear nutrition or fueling, they're talking about race day specific typically. Um, but that is important. And it's just not water. As one of our newbies we had
Right.
back,
Right.
Atayali, she was like, I just thought you just, I think you needed water with stuff on the inside of it. Yeah, you need electrolytes, especially if you
Yeah.
are a saltier sweater, because those Charlie horses and cramping does not feel good on race day. And then the after effect of the cramps is you just be sore for
Mm.
days, extended longer than you would have just through the normal fatigue of your body. You're just like sore right there in that one place, wherever it might be. So I get it. I'm a salt, like I have to stay with salt or some type of something in my bottles or whatever. Water is good, but when training, it's like water plus plus.
Right.
especially if
Absolutely.
you drink coffee.
Right. Right. Especially if you drink coffee.
Espe
So true. I try to hold off on coffee until after. I don't know about you, but I don't drink coffee before I train in the morning. I train and then I do coffee. I usually optimally try to wait like an hour or two after I train to
Mhm.
then drink coffee, just to like time it for when I start working, like work for a little bit, then have the coffee kick in, like to optimize that boost. Like this, because you get a little boost from training, you're feeling good, like, yeah, that workout was awesome, or that workout wasn't great, but I got it done. So you're feeling good, and then, maybe an hour into work or whatever your day might be, like, okay, now I'm gonna have that coffee, get that little second kick. So, you know,
Yeah.
think about all the like the little ways of optimizing.
So I'm in a no coffee segment of life right now just because it
Mm.
impacts my sleep. Um, I'm in a
Mm.
new decade myself, and so caffeine does not always agree with me. And I can have
Mhm.
1 cup of coffee at, say, 6 in the morning, and I am up till midnight. I don't need that kind of stuff in my I don't
Wow,
I
okay.
don't need that type of energy in my life, and I'm already
Right,
naturally, like,
right.
excited and intense and stuff, and I'm like, I have coffee, it's like through the roof and not going to sleep, and then my sleep is all messed up, and so, yeah, so I'm doing minimal coffee, and I do have
Got it.
some type of caffeine, and the caffeine that I take in, I use, it's like a little packet, but I only take half the packet so I can monitor how much caffeine
Mm,
I'm having in the morning, and that's very helpful for me because otherwise I need a little something sometimes, but yeah, it's yeah, I'm caffeine sensitive these days.
got it. Okay.
Mm.
Hey,
I only have coffee when I
gotta
don't have much to do, and I got a couple of days off where I can stay up and do all that kind of good stuff. Wow, this
nice.
is I love how you're so real, and I think one of the things I wanna talk about is being a dad and trying. I see you have a
Mm.
crib in the back. This is real life. And I don't know if I've ever asked a dad about what is it like to be a father and train. And because I see the crib, it's like, hey, let's go for it.
Oh, I mean, it's amazing being a dad, right? I mean, it's fun, it's challenging, it's everything. And training, for me, is an outlet to, get some space, better myself, my body. And one of my goals, right, is that was really enhanced now that I have a son, is making sure that longevity, right? To be, super serious, but like being around for as long as possible. And if working out can help with that because it makes me pay attention to what I'm eating, right? Like I can't just have all the junk food that I want because then I'm not going to be able to train as well and then I'm not going to feel as good. So it makes me pay attention to what I'm eating more. It makes me pay attention to resting more because I got to go to sleep if I'm waking up at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. because I have to get my workout in, spend time with the family, then head to work. So um, at first it was more of like a, hey, like I need to work out to be here for the long term. Now that doesn't mean it has to be triathlon, right? That could be lifting, it could be running 5Ks or 10Ks, whatever you want your exercise to be, right? Can help you achieve can help you achieve those goals. For me, it's triathlon and running because I need a little bit of competitiveness in order to work out. I hate to say it, but for me, it's like, just go for a run for the rest of your life every day. I'm like, okay, like, sure, but that doesn't get my like juices going to stay committed. And that for where I am in my life right now, that could change in the future where I just run for fun and that be a great health benefit and outlet. But right now, I do need a little bit of that incentive and carrot to chase. And it's really cool. He watches, me bike sometimes, and he comes to the races. He was, gosh, 2021 August. It was July. He wasn't even one at the first try Ironman that I did. So it's it's a team effort training and having a young child. So shout out to my wife again for putting up with crazy training schedules and coming to these races. um, because it really does take all of us to work together to make these things happen and possible.
Love it. I feel like you have, at least when I've been privy to you, you always seem to be very level and happy and have exhibit a lot of joy. Your mindset about racing, take us through how important mindset is.
Mm, it's huge. And I appreciate you saying exhibiting joy and level headed, but that is not always the case. um, not one bit.
We all have our moments,
But,
but I'm just saying for
but
the most part,
no, no,
we all
no. I
have our
know. Sorry,
moments.
I didn't
Yeah.
mean. You know what I mean in terms of like you said, we all have our moments, and you do want to be level headed, and I do try that, right? I mean, I had a post the other day where a song was playing and it said like immediate mood booster, right? Because I was just feeling like blah. I was like, let me put on a song that I know puts me in a good mood, and getting back to that, because managing your emotions is possible. It's not easy. Sometimes things can get out of whack, but I do try to at least be more even keel and positive outlook, and that comes into racing because I'm used to competing, right? Throughout high school and college, competing, but it was a team sport, right? So if you were having a bad day, right, you could pass the rock to one of your friends and be like, all right, like, go at it, or contribute in a different way, whether it's on defense or offense, helping other people, facilitating. But when you're out there on your own, right, like it's you. Like it doesn't matter how many people are cheering you on. It's great to have people cheering you on, but you might be on a dirt path in backwoods in like Lake Placid, as an example, right? There's some roads where like you're not seeing anybody else except other people who are in the race. So mindset is huge, and one of the things that for me is being able to manage those inner thoughts. So knowing like what song gets you going, or knowing before you go to sleep, let me do some breathing exercises because I worked out late and I know my mind is going to be racing. So if I have to work out late, I know I'm going to have to, like, whether it's meditation or breathing exercises, but how am I going to calm my body down? Or if you're in a really tough set, what type of dark place do you need to go to get through it? Or are you a positive person where you're just like, I need to appreciate my body right now and thank it for all of the things that it grants me. Like, there's everybody has a different way of dealing with things, and I've done both. One time I'm like, this stinks, but like, remember all the people who said like you're crazy for doing this. Or I was in a race and my body was cramping up a little bit. I was like, you know what? Thanks, body. Like, you're doing great. And then, keep going. You're doing a great job. So like, there's levels to like the mental talk, but it's finding what works for you in that moment, because you're going to need it. Like, one way or another, when you're doing something difficult, there's going to be challenging parts, and you just got to figure it out.
I appreciate that. You said the dark spot, find that dark place and push you through. I'm like, hmm, that's some wisdom there. Talking about for you it was the people who said that you were crazy for doing it, and now you're out here doing it. So, and then you have the positive people who are like, "Oh, you're doing great. You're grateful." So I absolutely love the the opposing forces to get you through the mental hump. What advice now would you give a newbie as we wrap up the interview? What advice would you give to someone who is looking to try?
Um, just go for it. Dive in. It is an amazing sport. It is um, challenging if you want it to be, but it can be really easygoing if you want that as well, right? I think sometimes triathlon gets wrapped up in the longer distances, but sprints are absolutely fantastic. They're a blast, and I think people should be doing more sprints, like getting into the sport that way, because it is, or doing it as a relay, right? That's how, I started off like just doing with the cycling. So, understand why you want to do it and be unashamed about that, right? If you're like, I want to do it as a relay, go for it. There's so many people in this community, whether it's on Instagram or it's Facebook communities. If you're a shy person and you don't want to reach out that way, that's completely fine. Maybe it's talking to some of your friends and trying to get them to do it that way, or you want to do it solo, perfectly fine. But if you are a little bit more outgoing and you want to get immersed in the community, it's a very welcoming space, and it's only getting like better in terms of the communities of all different shapes and sizes, ethnicities, financial backgrounds. Like it's getting more and more diverse in terms of the people doing the sport and the communities that are here to support one another in the sport. So that's what I would recommend, is just go for it, be unashamed, know that there's people here supporting you if you want to reach out in terms of questions. Like, ask any question you have. I mean, everybody's got their stories. I've fallen off on my bike trying to clip out more than once. I've worn, push pins on my bike jersey and used, a regular bike jersey, not some tri suit in races. So like, everybody's got their stories. No one's gonna, look at you one way if you ask a question or don't understand something. So just go for it.
But yeah, just go for it. Yes, yes, and yes. So Jamal, what's next for you this year? What's on tap?
For me, I have a sprint in June, a 70.3 in Happy Valley, PA, and a full Ironman in July. So
Awesome. Awesome.
full
I
schedule
love how
there.
you have them back to back. So by the end of July, you are free for the rest of the year. That's some
Exactly.
smart planning right there. That is some smart planning. He's like, let's just knock it out. Sprint, Happy Valley at the end of June. And I'm assuming Lake Placid is July.
Lake Placid, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Lake
And then Lake
Placid's in
Placid,
July. End
and
of
then you're
July.
like, I'm done. I'm good.
Then we're done. Then
That's
we got
it.
the rest of the
That's
year.
it. You got the rest of the
Then
year
we're
to do whatever
good.
you want to do. Well, I love it. Well, Jamal, thank you so much for coming. It's your energy. I hope at some point when the racing is done and you're able to balance again, Coffee Posse will come back. But I understand how it is when you got life in and baby, work, commute, all that good stuff. But we would love to see Coffee Posse back again because it's such a beautiful community online, on Instagram, actually. Well, we got rapid fire. So let's get right into it. You said music
Oh,
boosts your
here we
mood.
go.
You say music
Here we
boosts
go.
your mood. So what's your favorite song?
Hmm. Favorite song right now. Okay. So it's funny because I asked this question. So I'm like, oh, I see how hard it is. But I still like Dreams and Nightmares by Meek Mill. Is It gets me going. Gets me in that competitive space. Um, so right now, training mode, I'm liking that song.
Okay. And so who is your favorite artist?
Mm. I like Jay-Z. I mean, Brooklyn. I'm a Brooklyn guy. I'll go with Jay-Z right now.
Okay. Wetsuit or no wetsuit?
For wetsuit legal
Just
race?
in general, would you prefer a wetsuit or not?
Let's go wetsuit. I'll take the buoyancy.
Rank these in order of preference: swim, bike, and run.
uh, Bike, run, swim.
Race shirt, keep it for memories or wear it proudly.
Wearing it proudly for the memories.
I love it. I love it. Um, road bike or triathlon bike?
Try bike since I'm doing the triathlons,
Okay.
but road bike
Gel.
for like anything else. Sorry.
Okay. Okay. Gels or real food for nutrition, for race day nutrition?
Oh, for race day gels.
Okay. We talked about recovery. So, what is your favorite recovery tool or method?
I like stretching. You know, it it feels good. Yeah, so stretching is my favorite immediate after recovery, but don't sleep on sleep. So that that actually I'm gonna take that as my favorite. Sleeping, because it's one thing I don't get enough of, and it is my favorite. So let's go with sleep.
All
Favorite
right.
recovery tool.
And coffee. Are you medium roast, dark roast, or light roast?
I like dark roast and black.
Dark roast and black. All right. And do you get off the bike and take a proper pee break or pee on the bike?
Wow. um, so probably when I was younger, I would have said on the bike, but now I'm gonna get off.
Well,
I'm gonna get off the bike.
so the change of heart
What'd you
has
say?
happened. I said the change of heart. What happened with, how did the change of heart come?
I'm just thinking about it now and like how much time, like, and legit, yeah, like, yeah. I'm thinking I get off now, get off the bike, and go. Because one of the things with like getting older is realizing that like you don't have to like push everything. Like I'm not winning any awards. I'm not topping topping my age group. So if I can be comfortable, get off the bike, use the porter potty, then I'm thinking that's what I'm gonna have to remember this conversation for Lake Placid. But you know, like how many seconds is it gonna take you? Like is it gonna take me 2 minutes getting off, going, and then getting right back on? So that's why the change of mind is that now that I'm older, like in realizing that like you can be comfortable, use the porta potty and get right back on. And if your training got better, you still should be able to meet your training time or whatever you're trying to hit with that slight delay.
You heard it here. With older wisdom, here we are. Jamal Davis, thank you so much for coming on the Try Beginner's Luck podcast. We do appreciate you. And, we had this saying, whenever you try beginner's luck, you always win. So keep trying out there. Be sure to check out Ask a Coach. That's on YouTube. Really awesome way to get your questions answered if you're a newbie and don't have access to a coach, or you're scared to ask your coach because you think it might be a silly question. Well, we got 2 resident coaches who are willing to answer any questions that you have. So just hit us up, send us a DM, or click the link and we'll be able to get that to you. But for now, we are out. I'm Mashonda Shines and we're out. Peace. Bye, everybody. Thank you for tuning in and listening to this episode. We need your help so we can continue to try at TBL. So for more information on where you can find and subscribe to this podcast, visit www.trybeginnersluck.com. And don't forget, whenever you try beginner's luck, you always win.